YouTube? It's Chosen the Destroyer, and this is going to be part 2 of the Sarah Spaceman biggest controversy in cosplay history, a Heroes of Cosplay deep dive. So grab your snackies, grab your babies, let me know what you eat or drink down below. Get to watch him.
This is where I literally shouted, "Oh no!" because the next episode's con is Anime Matsuri. It's an infamous con, okay? This episode starts by explaining that this is the first anime convention of the series, and that anime conventions only have skit contests.
That is not true. It is the first anime specific con, which is fine, but like, just because it's an anime con doesn't mean it's skit related. There again, I mentioned in the first part there are some contests, like cosplay contests that involve skits, and you need to have a skit as part of the contest or whatever. None of the ones specifically in my area run this way. I've not been to one that runs this way, to be honest. I have been to cosplay contests where there was an optional, you can do a skit. A lot of those have been phased out, where it's like you can't even do skits anymore. That was phased out of my conventions as well, just because like in general people didn't do it. So it was kind of like we restructured like the reward systems and stuff like that. So it was like one of the things we got rid of because people stopped doing them. And it was an option. So, but like I don't know of a convention that requires a skit in my area at all. So like that's definitely not true.
And that craftsmanship is valued more here than it is at the comic conventions. Maybe because they don't get actors to be the judges. Also, not all anime conventions only do skit contests. What we've seen so far in the contests are actually called walk-ons, which is just walking on the stage, posing for like 10 seconds and then leaving. But skits can be a couple minutes long and are just any kind of performance. Yaya is doing...
Yeah, so that... Sorry. That is a thing. Skits take longer. They just take longer time. Which means if there's a lot of skits, you can't enter as many people into your cosplay contest. So like, mine maxes out, I think, at 50. Taking in consideration people walking on, people taking their time on this stage, you know, getting everyone settled, talking about the winners, how they won, why they won, bringing them back on stage, pictures happening after the contest has technically ended, like stage pictures, that kind of stuff, like a bunch of other things, right? So mine maxes out at 50 contestants. If I have skits, maybe a third of that, because like, again, skits usually have music involved. Music usually lasts about 3+ minutes. Like, it's a lot. That skits take out a lot of your ability for walk-ons, if that makes it, like, however they want to word it, like, just it takes too much time.
A calendar shoot in this episode and is putting on a bunch of cosplays, and her Jessica Rabbit corset is uncomfortable to the point that she has to cut the laces. I have questions. Was this production forced anti-corset propaganda? Victoria and Monica are doing Fushigi Yugi.
Especially because she made that cosplay. So, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I've definitely had some stuff where I'm like, the corset, I ate something and now the corset's too tight. I need it loosened. Like, that's fine. But like, that seems a little crazy, but whatever.
Cosplays, and Victoria gets a job with a con and has to be gone for a week while Jinyo makes her cosplay for her. Monica has an interview with
I like her outfit.
Blizzard. Why did you change the way MMOs are, you stupid fucking company? I hate you so much. And they do this totally real interview with the camera crew that's totally not a paid spot for Blizzard's advertisement. Monica picks out fabric with Jinyo and not Victoria, and later Victoria complains about Jinyo's work. Holly and Jessica's project for Anime Matsuri is famous internet cats in the Cats the Musical art style, because
I remember this
Japanese
one.
cats are huge. If the anime people don't know what it is, it's just going to be a disaster.
And please remember that this was shot in 2013. At the con, we finally get a mention of prejudging. Woo! Yaya negates the statement from the beginning of the episode that said that anime conventions require skits, explaining correctly that there are both skits and walk-ons. Victoria and Monica still aren't finished with their costumes, to the point that the con is in full swing while Victoria is having the unfortunate experience of threading a serger.
It's the worst. The serger thing is the worst. It is a whole, it's a whole thing. Baby lock sergers, that you can get a baby lock that will like, it uses air to like thread itself in a weird way to a point, quote unquote, to a point. But yeah, you definitely have to have tweezers, a lot of patience, and like at the end, you're going to have anger issues. Going to be 100%. Like just, it infuriates me every time I have to redo my serger.
Becky is not competing, but she's there as a guest and is judging the Marvel costume contest. And Monica makes a comment about her being unqualified.
I was shocked to find that Becky was judging the costume contest because she doesn't really have many credentials as far as craftsmanship is going.
Becky comes up to see Monica and Victoria and asks if Monica would want to work with her at Planet Comic-Con, and she tells her to her face that her craftsmanship isn't good enough for her.
It's kind of like you're the last person I would think to group with. Craftsmanship is like the #1 thing, and I've seen your craftsmanship stuff before, and I wouldn't really even want that.
I don't think my craftsmanship's that horrible.
Her partner Victoria
Damn.
then hot glues her horns together just in time for prejudging.
Listen, plenty of cosplayers are out there doing shit in their hotel rooms the night before or on the way. Plenty. I've done it a few times. Like, it's whatever. But y'all are supposed to be some of the best, and you're talking shit about somebody else's craftsmanship, and this is happening in the same room. You know, there's other glues. There's other things that you could be doing. But okay.
Holly and Jessica are painting their bodysuits while getting dressed, but these are honestly really cute. I kind of really like these cosplays. Like, unironically, I think these are really cute. Yaya does prejudging in full-ass cosplay, which...
So most, if not every single judge I've ever worked with, and by that I mean I bring judges to my show, including Yaya Han, they do not prejudge in cosplay. A lot of them have where the end of prejudging and the beginning of the cosplay contest need to be so many hours apart so they can deliberate, decide on winners, and then go change. Legitimately, I'm not joking. That is a thing. Pablo, thank you for the follow. That is a thing. Have a good night. So they dress relatively comfortably during prejudging because they're like getting on their knees, or they're looking at hems, they're flipping hems, they're looking at seams, they're looking at like contact points, a bunch of other things, right? So they're needing to be able to move around a lot. They're not in their full cosplays unless it is a comfortable, easy cosplay for them to do that in. And then they'll go change for the contest. Now, I have had some judges that were in cosplay, but again, they were like more comfortable cosplays that would just be easy to move around in anyway, but nothing like this ornate or constricting.
I know she doesn't normally do. And the other judges are finally qualified and experienced cosplayers. We've got the God Save the Queen fashion.
Hey, it's Kathy. I know Kathy. I have 2 cosplays from Kathy. I've brung her to my convention multiple years in a row. One of my friends used to work for her. I've been to her shop multiple times. I know Kathy. Hi, Kathy. She now just goes by Kathy Jones. She no longer goes by God Save the Queen Fashions. But hi!
An incredibly talented pillar of the community. Someone who production just got the subtitle of World Cosplay Summit, but maybe
I don't want to talk about World Cosplay Summit. Also, Kathy now does a lot of work for Hollywood. She has made things for like Marvel TV, not TV shows, Marvel movies. She's made things for DC TV shows. Yes. Anyway, World Cosplay Summit in America was a thing. Lie to you.
Maybe they went to World Cosplay Summit.
Yeah, Kathy also made Dave Bautista, one of Dave Bautista's wrestling outfits. She's also made stuff for The Rock. She's done a lot of stuff.
I don't know, and a prop maker, but woo! Holly and Jessica get some flack for not actually making their bodysuits, but there's this weird edit where they put in Yaya's voice and play her saying, I wish they made their bodysuits, to have her say it while they're in the room. And I know this is cut from later because the clip they play over it is reused, and they literally play the actual audio on the second play of the clip.
And inspecting them. I wish they had made their bodysuits. Painted.
Yes. Did you have a loom for the knitting process?
So like you painted that and she painted this?
Plus, I'm pretty sure this is the beginning of the sentence. Here's those two edited together.
I wish they had made their bodysuit. That's a big part of the costume that they didn't make.
So more stupid, weird editing, but at least we got to see prejudging. Victoria is freaking out that God Save the Queen is flipping all of Monica's hems, and when she walks over to her, Victoria's headpiece falls apart.
Oh no!
Yaya asks her why she hot glued it to her face.
Why did you choose hot glue for the method to attach those?
But the stage show starts.
Because that's legitimate. There's other... She could have super glued that shit and it would have taken about the same amount of time. There's way better quick drawing methods that is not hot glue. Again, this is supposed to be this whole, they're supposed to be such good cosplayers or whatever. They're casting, they're being super judgmental against other people. You got people in here not making bodysuits, but are joining this cosplay contest. And I'm like, would they even make it into the... I don't know anything about Anime Matsuri's cosplay contest. I've not been to Anime Matsuri. Would they have made it into their costume contest in suits that they didn't make? They didn't sew the main part of their costumes. They just bought them and painted them. I'm pretty sure that would get you disqualified for mine. I would be like, hey man, you can't make it into the craftsmanship one because you didn't make the majority of it, but you can go into this other costume contest that I have that it doesn't matter if you made it or not. And it's just for fun. The only reason I'm pretty sure you made it in there, depending, again, don't know how this one works, is because you're part of a TV show. God dang, Jesus.
And Matt Mercer was in this show? So there's a whole subplot about Holly and Jessica, with Jessica being allergic to wool and not wanting to make the wigs out of wool, but they do it anyway, and at the contests, it makes Jessica so sick that she throws up. Don't do that. Monica and Victoria.
I always wondered, I remember that part, but I always wondered, was that real? Was she really allergic to wool and that's what making her throw up? I just always wondered if she had a stomach virus or was just legitimately sick and that's why she was throwing up. I was always confused about that. I have 100%. I'm allergic to feathers. I made a chocobo bunny outfit for the Bunny Hutch at Dragon Con one year and I used ostrich feathers and that's cemented to me because it was a little on the edge of, am I allergic to feathers? Because I didn't get tested and I was while I was working with these feathers on this costume, I was like, oh yeah, I'm allergic to feathers, but not enough that I am throwing up if I'm near real feathers. It is just kind of my sinuses start draining and I get stuffy and stuff like that. And if I'm around them for a really long time, I will start feeling like I have a sinus infection, but it's not something that makes me throw up. I don't understand, if it is something that is going to make you throw up and you're going to be in it for a long amount of time because you're part of this TV show, why would you make it out of wool anyway? You're making the wigs out of wool. You could literally just go get some acrylic yarn. It doesn't have to be wool. I was always really confused about that part. I don't get it.
They do their skit, and it's a fun little flowy sleeve dance, and then they make up this stupid edit where it seems like Holly and Jessica won't go up on stage, but they do. And this skit is I get what they were referencing, and maybe it's better in person, but the edit does them no favors.
If a full recording of the Cats the Musical exists, I want to see it. I mean, Cats the Musical is cringe. Like the musical being on stage, like I get why it got to where it was, but like the fact that they made it, like it's kind of cringy. It's people pretending to be cats. I don't know what else to tell you about it. I'm sorry. Like, I like musicals. Ray, you think it's, shut up. I like musicals. I understand why this blew up, says the cat girl. Yeah, no, I hear it. It's fine. I understand why it blew up and all this other stuff, but like if you are going to reference cats and do a cat skit, it's gonna be kind of cringe. Like it just is. I'm sorry. You can rip me apart in the comments. That's totally fine. I'm just saying.
It makes them look like this was the weirdest idea ever, and Yaya doesn't get it at all. But then they get off stage and Jessica sits on the floor and gets into a fight with the security guard because she refuses to get up even though it seems like she's sitting in front of the elevator. But they go back to their hotel room instead of staying for the awards because Jessica is so sick. And the awards are: third place is not in the cast. Second place, not in the cast. First place, also not in the cast. It's almost like artificially making people go to this many competitions in this little time is unrealistic and leads to nobody winning anything. What a great show. So with this being the first anime convention of the series, I think it's time that I brought you into a weird dichotomy within the cosplay community that never leaves my mind, and that's the strange distinction between the comic book people and the anime video game people. Like, these aren't two separate communities, but this guy Mark and how he themed the show really exemplifies this phenomenon in that there are people out there that think that because comic book movies and superhero movies are so mainstream that they must be like every cosplayer's favorite thing, that they must be the biggest thing in cosplay. And don't get me wrong, they are a big part, but especially in the competition scene, you
Winners of Holiday Matsuri 2023, not a single comic book cosplay, but we have King George from Hamilton. I think that might be Seal Phantom Hive. This is, oh God, Our Flag Means Death. Princess Tutu, that's nice. That's pretty rare. I don't know if this is a blood elf, maybe? I'm not sure. I both recognize and is this Zelda? I think this is this a Zelda thing? Man, I don't know.
actually
You'll be back. Time will tell. Anyway.
rarely see comic book cosplays. Why? Well, one of the biggest factors in
Castlevania, Oshinokoi, we have JoJo, we have Ranma. Can't tell. That might be Link. This looks like Cat Sasuke. I don't know what's going on here.
people winning a costume contest is the variety of
Monster Hunter? He's from Fate.
techniques used in that cosplay, and the complexity of it. At competition level, complex and complicated video game character designs like Monster Hunter armor sets are incredibly popular, and Spider-Man is rarely seen. And isn't it kind of messed up to have a cosplay show, the first cosplay show, and not give any props to Japan or
There's also a thing to say. I feel like it's really relatively easy to find decent quality, like Marvel specific cosplays nowadays because they're so popular, which means you can't enter them into cosplay contests if you purchase them. But if you're like, man, I really want to be that character and I'm going to make it because I can't find it anywhere. So you go through the effort and the time and the money of making this cosplay. Do you not want to show it off? Do you not feel like you might as well enter in the cosplay contest because you went through all of this trouble anyway? I feel like that's part of it. Like, you'll see plenty of people dressed up as like, pick a comic book character. Pick one. Like, you'll see plenty of people dressed up, especially mainstream ones. You'll see plenty of people walking around cosplaying like from them. But not in the cosplay contests usually, because a lot of them are just purchase cosplays. And that's fine. I'm not hating on purchase cosplays. That's most of my cosplays are purchase ones. Just you can enter into craftsmanship contests with purchase cosplays. So it's what it is.
Japanese media, like mentioning anime in the intro and going to a couple anime conventions doesn't cut it when cosplay would not be what it was then or now without Japan. While cosplay did originate in the West from the sci-fi community, mostly the Trekkies, and what those people were doing is cosplay, they didn't use the term cosplay for what they were doing. Because cosplay was coined in 1984 by Nobuyuki Takahashi after he visited a sci-fi convention in the United States, returned to Japan, and wrote an article about what he saw and called it cosplay. He borrowed two words from English, costume and play, which is why in Japanese, cosplay is spelled in katakana. Cosplay soon erupted in Japan, and just like Lolita fashion made its way back to the West in its new form under its new name, where it blossomed even further. And yes, I know.
And now we have very easily able to get different freaking wigs. I remember when I very much started cosplaying, it was so hard to find good wigs. It was so hard. There's like one or two websites maybe, and like you might not get a good one. Like and it was not like funky colors either. If you want a funky color wig, you gotta dye that shit. It was like normal, like quote unquote, like normal hair color wigs. It was a whole freaking thing. It was annoying as hell. Like, the showrunner just doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, the showrunner is putting on this thing because he's like, oh, it's going to be catty. It's going to be sexy. It's going to sell because it's, cosplayers are all these sexy women and there's drama and it's going to sell because it's a reality TV show. He has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. He has no idea what cosplay is. He does not care. Like 100%. Like, oh my God. Hate this. Why make a show about something you don't care about? I'm gonna make money. Not if you don't know how to sell it or frame it in any way. Jesus, dude.
Know that in 2013, anime was nowhere near as mainstream as it is today, and that the biggest thing in the world was Marvel movies. And it's fine, and it makes sense that they would want to cater to a Western market, and I'm not saying that it should have been Japanese themed. That would have been weird. But to ignore and not educate people on where cosplay came from and how it came to be, when you have many women and a man right there who could tell you all of this information about how integral Japanese culture is to what cosplay is and was in 2013, is just sleazy. You are sleazy, Mark. And his sleaze even leaked onto innocent bystanders. Next up is the two-part season finale, where the problems with filming a TV show in real competitions really came to a head. Episode 5 and 6 are a two-parter on Planet Comic-Con. And these two episodes would also end up having some of the most controversial moments.
They only went to one fucking anime convention. I guess that's fine. But they went to 4 Comic Cons and 1 anime convention? This is so weird.
Episode 5 starts off with the narrator explaining that Planet Comic-Con will have 2 costume contests. An individual contest with walk-ons and a group contest requiring skits. We start with Holly and Jessica, and Holly is now the second person ever to wear a bald cap. They meet up with Becky because, unlike Monica, they will work with her. But they have some trouble finding something they actually all like, with Becky revealing that she's a Disney adult and only a Disney adult. But they compromise on a DreamWorks property.
He was just wearing a Harley Quinn outfit, but all right.
With How to Train Your Dragon. Becky will also be doing the individual contest, and for that she's doing BioShock because of course that's her favorite video game. And she makes her roommate figure stuff out because she wants an air cannon to shoot roses. And later they have a dragon making party that features 2 whole Game Grumps. Jesse is finally back and he's gonna do Assassin's Creed 4, and like I know people like Black Flag, but I don't know how anybody could have been hype about this game.
He did it before the game came out.
When 3 was so awful. Jesse's working with elk leather for this cosplay and literally takes it to the ocean to weather it, but that's enough of him. The big drama for this episode.
Okay. I mean, why not? Why not? Look at him go. I hope he has a great time.
Is that Yaya Han has decided to compete and come out of competition retirement by
Yes. She decided all by herself and not for this, you know, season finale or anything.
I mean, she was forced to by production. According to a reliable source, the show would not have happened at all if Yaya had not agreed to compete in this one contest. But she's going to be in the group contest, and she's doing a skit with Monica and Riddle, and they are doing American McGee's Alice. And this is the birth of Yaya's incredible Queen of Hearts cosplay. Monica will be the Cheshire Cat, and Riddle will be a quick change normal Alice to gross meat thing that she is sculpting and molding and casting. She is casting a dress. What? The amount of money that would cost. Like, we can even hear Chris ask,
You know this is probably like another $200 here.
this kind of casting is so incredibly expensive. But later we get to watch the Atlanta ladies practice their skit, and Monica calls Yaya a pageant mom. Chloe is doing the individual contest and has a very cool Hello Kitty sewing machine and doesn't seem to know how to thread it. But she's doing Gage from Borderlands, the video game, not the movie they just made. Victoria is doing a comic book hero out of comic books and is making Jinyo make it out of literal paper, but he's doing some cool stuff. And it's
I'm a little annoyed that it's only ever her boyfriend making things and they're not hiding that in any way, shape, or form. Like, okay, I guess. But like I don't know, making a Wonder Woman cosplay out of Wonder Woman comics is would be kind of neat. Like, I think that'd be kind of neat. And that's kind of like what the vibe that was given off was. I don't know.
time for the con. Jinyo is not finished with Victoria's costume, and they will have to work on it all night to finish it. And surprise, surprise, the paper skirt is ripping and Victoria is not happy about it. Meanwhile, Becky hasn't seen the air canister prop that her roommate made for her, and Becky isn't happy about it.
2 rose petals?
And it's time for the individual.
Then make it yourself. Why is this your roommate? Why is your roommate doing all these things? Like, what is... I can slightly understand Chickadee's boyfriend doing it. I mean, I don't know. She seemed kind of like a bitch, but like, I don't know. Maybe their relationship is better privately and not behind the lens of reality TV. But like, why is your roommate doing all this shit for you? I feel like I know why, but still.
Contest.
Are you mean to him?
The contest will be next episode, but we are informed that 2 contestants from this one male and 1 female, will be presented with championship belts. And I know this is 2012,
Woo.
but this isn't sports. We don't need gendered awards. Before Jesse goes up, his cosplay pops apart right there on the stairs, but he makes it on stage and the judges are impressed with his handmade cosplay. And his partner is excited and is very cute. Victoria goes up without the skirt, but Lance is still messing with the rose thing. But they go on stage and it works. But this is why people have no glitter, no rose petal rules. Like, you know, you're throwing around trash for people to pick up, but Lance does get credit for the podium thing. Chloe.
Also, stuff like glitter makes stages slippery. Like, that's another reason why. One, I don't want to have to clean it up, but also it makes the staging slippery. which is a hazard. So that's another reason why there's like a no glitter rule, no like throwing stuff rule. There's plenty of people that will do stuff where they'll have like streamers that is attached to their hands. Like you can get like streamer ring kind of things. Like there's a ring that goes over your finger and you hold it in the palm of your hand and then you kind of throw your hand out and like the streamers fly from your hand. So it looks like your hand is throwing streamers, but then it's connected to your finger still. So you just easily like pull it back and like clean it up. So that's what a lot of people do around that rule, kind of. But like just throwing random shit on the stage and being like, there was a joke, like this was brought up to me as kind of a running joke that Futurama did this thing. There was this episode about trash and like in the future, like people were like, I don't know how to make trash. And they had to make trash because there's like this trash asteroid. And Fry was like, just put it on the ground and now it's trash. And like that kept getting brought up to me over the weekend. And I was like, yeah, now that the rose petals are on the ground, they're trash now. You've just thrown trash on the ground.
She goes up on stage with her robot and acts like a random XD girl to the judges, and the winners are: Best Male is not in the cast, Best Female is not in the cast, Best Male Video Game is not in the cast, Best Female Video Game is Chloe, third place is Jesse, second place is not in the cast, Best
Jesse won something! Good for him! Yay! Yay, Jesse!
And Show is also not in the cast, but we get a cut-in of a what from Becky on the Best in Show. Jesse gets a cute hug from his partner, and we move on to the second half of Planet Comic-Con and the group skits, where the drama gets turned up to 11. Episode 6 starts with the con already going on, and we get a totally not production arranged night out scene with the entire cast, except for Jesse again, who would have totally still been at the con. But drama, big drama. Holly confronts Monica about what she said about Becky.
I know.
Maybe the reason Jesse wasn't included in this is because Jesse has a partner that he cares about and therefore wasn't going to go and be a sleazeball to all the women or something. I don't know. Go Jesse. Jesse's my favorite. I think I understand why Jesse's everyone's favorite. Like they're creating drama and like maybe Jesse's like, no, I'm not going to do, I don't know. I'm just trying to, I don't know if that happened. I just have suspicions. I'm just saying. I don't know.
That Monica said a couple things to Becky. You said a few things that kind of struck a chord with me personally, with like telling someone that they're not on your level and saying that you are the last person that I would think.
I'm laughing at Yaya's face when she said that.
With me personally, with like
look at it.
Telling someone that they're not on your level and saying that you are the
eyebrows.
last person that I would think of is like kind of rude.
To be honest, when I say the last person, it's more because when I think of groups, I think of people I'm really close with.
Wait, I wasn't there at that conversation, so what happened?
Are you serious? You're really gonna call me out in front of Yaya with something I said to Becky. I didn't mean to make Becky feel upset, and I'm sorry that she did. I wish that she had come to me so we could talk it out.
Anyway, the day of the contest, the DreamWorks Adults drama is that Becky slept in her contacts and her pain scale is at an 8 or a 9, so she ends up going to the hospital. They make it a big drama if she will be back in time or not, but she does, and she still has her eyes and is ready to compete. Team Atlanta wasn't faring any better though. We do get this one thing about how Yaya's crown attaches with magnets, but everything quickly gets derailed because Riddle is feeling very sick. She only gets worse and ends up vomiting, and Yaya wants to pull the plug.
Holy Brian, holy.
But Riddle insists on doing it. And I just gotta say, if you are doing a contest and you feel sick, even if you are doing a skit, just don't compete.
Don't compete, especially because like you could have a stomach bug and you could infect other people with that, and also you could get up there and be sick. Like, don't do that. Like, I get it. Like, you're like, I put so much work into it, or I did all these things, or like whatever. There will always be other cons. Don't do it. That's it. Like, and if you have a stomach bug or if you're throwing up, you should not go near other people. That's just me personally. Like, you should not go out into public at this like huge like, so there's like this thing called like con crud, right? I feel like anytime I get con crud, for the most part, it has just been because like I've pushed myself too far over the weekend and I'm in a different state or a different area and like my sinuses are like draining. I've got like sinus issues going on and I just feel worn down is usually what the con crud is for me. But you can very much get like flu. Now you can get COVID. You could get stomach bugs if someone goes with stomach bugs. Like you can get sicknesses at conventions. It is a big space with a lot of people. So like don't possibly go out and infect other people with something.
Don't get extra points for having a fever and not being in bed like you should be. But both Becky and Riddle still go for it, and that means it's time for Team Atlanta Green Screen. Strangely, prejudging does get mentioned for this episode, but not the last episode. And this was the same con, but the judges are a Kansas City-based costume designer, a comic guy, and a prop maker. So 2 out of 3, but at least we get to see the prejudging. The costume designer refuses to flip Yaya's seams and says,
You're welcome to flip my seams if you'd like.
That's all right, we trust you.
and Yaya is crushed that they won't get up. During DreamWorks Adults Prejudging,
Yeah.
Holly has bound their boobs to make them flat because they're cosplaying a male character, and oh god, it's way too tight and needs to be cut off.
I don't know why, but the boob babies really hurting me.
Yeah, so binding with you're binding your titties with tape can be very dangerous. They make specific tape for that, but it can still be dangerous. I have purchased 2 different chest binders that look like tank tops, where it's like canvas. And the reason why I bought 2 is because my boobs got bigger and my first one stopped fitting me and started giving me like a lot of really bad back pain. So probably what happened is she just binded it too tightly. So like, yeah, that's actually probably needed to not have done it as tightly. I've also done open chest binding, which is like you basically put nip covers on and then like use like sports tape, like how you tape up like your knee or whatever for sports, and like kind of like lift your boobs up and then put them to the side, if that makes any sense, so that like you have like you're able to do open chest stuff. So I mean that is things. You can buy chest binders that are like tubes. I don't know how well those work in really flattening you out. The tank top ones, they're like crop tank tops. They have a lot of space for, you know, the fat of your breast to kind of spread out and distribute. So like they have a lot more space because they have basically all of your chest to distribute. Or chest space to distribute, I guess. Whereas the bands have less. So I feel like the bands will just give you cleavage, but I've never used one, so I don't know. But like, yeah. Yeah, so like open chest binding, I was told, this was actually really smart. Someone told me, and I didn't think about it till afterwards. You should basically put on, like, you got to cover your nips with something, because if not, it's a rough day. And then you should lay on your back and let gravity assist with the spreading of your boob, I guess. And then from there, you kind of have to lift it so that it's like higher up, and then like push it to the side, and then you tape it. So if you're wearing like a V-neck that kind of cuts in kind of low, it almost looks like you have pectorals as opposed to breasts. It is a thing that I have done for a cosplay. It is possible. And then you can go in with makeup and kind of make it look more like shaded in different ways to make it look more like pecs. Yeah, you gotta use pasties or something, just to protect, or even big band-aids, something to protect the most sensitive part of you there. But yeah, like I highly suggest if you're gonna do a lot of cross-playing, which means you're basically doing like a cross-dressing cosplay. You're for me, that would be me cosplaying as a man, which I have done multiple times. Just look into chest binding, like tank tops or whatever. There are plenty of them out there, especially today. There are plenty of different places you can order them online. In June, sometimes Targets have them in their stores. I haven't used a Target brand one, but whatever. But there are plenty of them out there. That is a safe way to bind, especially if you're not doing it for super long periods of time. I have to do it with my Mau Mau cosplay because if I don't wear a chest binder with my Mau Mau cosplays, my boobs are too big for that cosplay where the cosplay doesn't, like, the robe doesn't sit right. I mean, I could probably still wear it, but because the robe is like tying on both sides, like it just kind of gapes in like a weird way that I don't like. So I wear a chest binder so that it falls better. But, you know, it is what it is. But there are plenty of places. You could just look it up online. Chest binder, tank top. Like, you could probably buy some on Amazon too. I don't know. There's different price points of them. Find one that is actually your size. Don't just try to buy the smallest size so that you get the flattest chest. That's not going to work. That's going to give you a lot of back pain and make you very uncomfortable. Do not do that. Look up what your actual size would be based on how like large your chest is and your sizing. But yeah, it's so easy to get that nowadays. Be safe, guys.
I think I did it too tight.
And the judges don't get up for them either. It's starting to seem like the people at this con didn't like the cast or the crew. Backstage at the contest, Team Atlanta is still mad about the judges not flipping their seams and are bummed because they think that the big props of Team DreamWorks will beat their super detailed work. But
I mean, I kind of get it because like Yaya is a judge and like that it's normal to go and like get up, go walk up, see the seams, see how it was constructed, see how everything was put together. Like that is a thing. So for them to basically be snubbed and it's like, we're not going to get up and look at your craftsmanship is kind of like, okay, that's what?
Team DreamWorks still hasn't practiced or even come up with their choreography yet. The contest starts and Team Atlanta is up first. But before they go on stage, somebody in the crowd yells. Though the line sounds suspiciously dubbed in. But then, DreamWorks adults gets into a verbal altercation with a large group of Doctor Who cosplayers.
We made these in 4 days. No, but we go to tons of conventions. Like, everyone is here.
Hold on. Look at this. You can see the wefts from the back of her wig. You can see the wefts here. This is super shiny yellow. This is super shiny yellow. Why?
No, but we go to tons of conventions. Like, everyone is here to have a safe place to go and be themselves and have a good time. Those girls were doing exactly opposite of that. They just decided to just completely alienate us.
You make your costume.
Mouth isn't moving again.
But that's really rude of you guys. We work hard. We really do, and you do too. This is about having fun, and how dare you make it about not having fun? We're done. I cannot believe you. It's okay, Becky. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
Put a Jenny Nicholson-sized pin in that one, because we're moving on to the Team
Jenny Nicholson-sized pin.
Atlanta skit, which is really good. It's well done. There's pre-recorded audio, there's props, there's music, they're hitting all their cues, but then Yaya's crown falls off in her big moment. And this is why I don't trust magnets. I think me watching this show in 2014 and seeing Yaya Han's crown fall off is the reason why I still to this day do not trust magnets. But they recover, and the skit is still very good. But hey, did you notice how no one else they show had any stage props? DreamWorks adults are up next, and despite apparently making up their choreo on the spot, which I kind of don't believe because like they also had a pre-recorded audio track for this, so like they at least kind of knew what they were gonna do, but it's cute. It's really good. And the final awards for the season finale of the first riveting season of Heroes of Cosplay, the end of this tension-building two-parter, are Best Craftsmanship goes to the Doctor Who group that was yelling at Team DreamWorks. Best Individual in a Group Performance, which is kind of a shady award to even have, goes to somebody not in the cast from a group of fairies. And for the grand prize, the MC announces that the judges are between two groups. Will it be both sets of cast members? No, it's actually Team Atlanta and the group with that girl that just won that shady award. And the Best in Show winner is... Atlanta! And that is season 1. 6 episodes of suffering left. But first, let's talk about the Doctor.
They had 2 seasons of this? Okay, sure, why not?
Clearly, there was a lot of animosity between production and the con-goers during the filming of that episode, but this one is the most interesting because one of those Doctor Who cosplayers spoke out afterward. There is a Blogspot post from that 5th Doctor cosplayer.
My life as a villain
and by the way,
cosplay.
I have no way to verify if any of this is true. This is an old post with a lot of broken links, so grain of salt in this cup of tea, but the post starts with her talking about how her group had the perfectly normal experience prior to the con of preparing for like an entire year to put together their dream group of all 11 Doctors, only to find out that the show would be filming when they went to sign up for the costume contest at the con.
We arrived at the convention and went to sign up for the masquerade, only to discover that not only were we required to agree to be on the show, but also that we had to do a skit. So they didn't even warn people ahead of time that they had to have a skit. And that is why no one had props or like sound and shit. That is disgusting.
They were required to agree to be on the show and were only informed.
Hold on. In speaking to other entrants, we realized that no one had been aware of this requirement and that, in fact, the skit requirement had been added only a day before the competition.
Of the skit requirement when they signed up. Apparently, none of the other non-cast member participants knew either, because the skit requirement had only been added a day before the competition. She goes on to say that the locals felt miserably outclassed.
Hold on. The actual masquerade was an exercise in humiliation and frustration. We went first, which allowed us to see how miserably outclassed all the locals were by the quote-unquote heroes. They had gigantic props, soundtracks with pre-recorded dialogue, light cues, grips, and smoke effects. One group had cosplayers who owned their own production company and had done a gig for Del Toro. Guillermo Del Toro. The other had Yaya Han herself, who boldly came out of quote-unquote retirement from competing at cons to compete at a con with no... I don't know.
By the heroes, because they were actually told ahead of time that there were skits and could actually put things together for it. And the Doctor lets us know that the only competitors that stood a chance was that fairy group, because they were Ren Fair actors and already knew how to do a little fairy dance. Another thing that I thought was so sus was the clearly dubbed audio clip of somebody going, "Go home, out of towners." According to the Doctor, somebody actually yelled, "I love all your costumes except the sci-fi plants," causing the crowd to cheer. The Doctor Who group then cheered with the crowd because their dream of doing all the Doctors in one group in competition was being, quote, overrun by people competing in our con for no other reason that they needed a place to film their heroes. Now we get to the part of the altercation that the show actually showed. Somebody in the cast yells back at them and the Doctor loses her temper. I tried to explain that this was the only chance most of us get to go to a convention, and since we can only afford to compete once or so a year, it means a lot to us. I also want to stop here because I want to give some grace to the cast of the show, because they didn't get to pick which cons that production took them to. They probably didn't know that no one had told the other competitors that there would be skits. And it wasn't their responsibility to do that. They had no control over this, and they were probably understandably upset that people were villainizing them over something that they were contractually obligated to do for production.
Yeah, again, don't do reality TV shows because, oh my God, like, it's not gonna go well.
Everybody's mad for valid reasons. The doctor then ends the post with, "I'm sorry I yelled at the heroes. I'm sorry I gave them any footage for the show. But when you sit down to a game of poker only to realize that you're against a couple of card sharks with a stacked deck, one's anger at the unfairness is not quenched by the exaltation of beating the card sharks at their own game. I make no apologies for being angry at Heroes of Cosplay, 51 Minds for producing it, Sci-Fi for airing it, and Yaya Han and all her heroes for being part of something so sleazy." Well, I can't 100% prove that none of the other contestants were made aware of the skit requirement prior to the con. That post did link to a YouTube video of a recording of most of the costume contest. And if you watch the other group contestants' skits, no one else has a pre-recorded track. Some groups played pop songs and posed around the stage. Some groups, including the Doctor Who group, did live audio without mics or music, which is really weird for skits because most contests will not let you do live audio at all. And they made these people shout on the stage.
Here we go. Now let's hello. Summon! Rough nut, tough nut. I know that's you.
And as the post mentions, the fairies did have a real choreographed dance to a music track, but as they said, they were Ren Fair performers, and they just did one of those performances that they usually do at the Ren Fair. Plus, Chloe ended up responding to this post in a Tumblr post that I was only able to access from the Wayback Machine. I assume Chloe was in the audience for this, but she includes some statements from Jessica, who was right there. The way it started was someone from the audience identified my friends as sci-fi plants. She then includes a quote from Jessica, who said this in their secret cast Facebook group. The stuff that girl wrote when she was summarizing, not throwing around blame, was pretty accurate. Someone did shout something out from the audience. They cheered. I think Becky, asked them why they would cheer or something really Disney princess. And then that girl got all aggro and said that line where you can read her lips. You're not even from Kansas City. Holly mentioned that we spent a buttload of money shipping things here. I cannot believe production.
I mean, this in a wow, production sucks way and not in a I don't believe that's true way.
Made them pay to ship their own stuff to be on their show, and that we worked really hard.
Again, I would have been like, can I just drive it? It would have sucked, especially if you're going all over the country back and forth, but still.
They said they only go to one convention a year. Then I said Stephen Moffat would be ashamed that they were being so catty. Then that's when Holly said, how dare they make it about not having fun and all that. That's when the mean girl did her hand thing. Then Becky was crying and Holly hugged her and we gave each other death glares for the rest of the night. Later, Chloe and I had a really forced heart-to-heart with them, which ended in a really forced group hug with the hand girl whispering, "Just drop it," in my ear. The doctor then made a second post where she apologized to Chloe, Becky, Holly, and Jessica after the first post caused what she called a Tumblr war. The thing is, all of this shit, all of this drama, all of these random people who felt hurt, all of this could have been avoided if they hadn't gone with such a flawed format. Why wouldn't you just do a Project Runway ripoff? Well, money. It costs money to do that. And with this being the first of its kind, it was inherently risky. So they kind of had to spend as little money as possible. While it's nice that people got to see real costume contests, this kind of complication was inevitable because
quote unquote real cosplay contests, because a lot of those cosplay contests completely changed how they ran, it seems like, in order to allow this show to happen or this show to partake, I guess. I don't know. Are you telling me none of the other cosplay contests had prejudging? And even if they did do like on stage stuff, like, is it just from looks alone? Which I mean, like, is fine, I guess, but then why would you have a cash prize for looks alone? But then also, I mean, you can, I guess. But then that's not craftsmanship based? I don't know. Like, I'm so confused about this. I mean, the conventions are probably like this. The conventions are probably like, oh, this will actually benefit us because it's going to get our convention on this like sci-fi TV show. More people are going to be, this is free advertisement for us as a convention. And it is. I'm not going to lie to you. It is free advertisement for them, basically. Like, yeah, they have to deal with production a little bit. They have to deal with the heroes of cosplay a little bit. They didn't seem to change very much. Like, they didn't go like, well, you guys are on this TV show, so we're going to make it so that you win. Because most of them didn't place at any of these conventions. It was rare that any of the quote-unquote heroes placed at any of the conventions that they went to. So, like, it is free advertisement for these conventions, as annoying as it is. This last one, just suddenly changing stuff is pretty shitty. I'll give it that, though.
They weren't making a documentary or a vlog. This wasn't a format that was supposed to emulate real life. It was a reality show. And despite the community hating it, it got a second season. Kind of. So the show does have 2 seasons, but season 2 is called season 1.5 for some reason. And it's a little better, honestly. But ultimately, it would be what got the show canceled. They reintroduced cosplay at the start, and this intro is honestly kind of way better at representing cosplay and what the show is even about.
It's the artistic, provocative, and mind-blowing world.
Oh, they're perfect!
Of cosplay.
We cosplay a character because it means something to us.
Each week, our
Or we cosplay a character because we like that character. You know, it doesn't have to be deep.
cosplayers design and craft the most fantastic costumes you will ever see.
That looks so cool.
They gain insight from Hollywood prop makers.
And push themselves to their physical and creative limits.
I'm not even sure what this is anymore.
Episode 6 starts with a cast we already know. Holly, Jessica, and Chloe, who are doing a Pokemon group for the contest at Stan Lee's Comic-Con. And Jessica is claiming to be the first person to do a thing again.
Yeah, no one's ever done her before, so...
I'm sorry? No one's ever... What? You could just Google that. Cosplays are... Yes, what?
But Chloe wants them to also join her group of burlesque versions of social media websites. But we won't see that until the con. Holly explains a pretty good amount of how they're piecing together their very large cosplay. There's an explanation of what a gajinka is, but they end up priming the foam kind of really dangerously because the usual spray primer for EVA foam is Plastidip, and Plastidip is really toxic. And I think you need a respirator for that, not just a paper mask, and you definitely shouldn't keep spraying it on your friend when your friend is saying, it's getting on my face.
Oh, it's... And also, you're spraying it really, really, really close to the item that you're spraying? Plastidip is like rubber. It you spray it on, right? And like you can peel it off later. Like it's, at least I've not had good success with Plastidip personally, and it was probably entirely user error. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it wasn't, but it is kind of like rubbery, like seal, yeah. So like you can kind of like peel it off. Yeah, it is used on like cars and stuff, but like it's like, why are you spraying it so close to what you're spraying? You should not. So there's a reason if you read the back of like spray can things, like it's like, oh, like 6 to 8 inches away. Because if you're too close, you just clump the paint together and then it's too thick and then it cracks when it dries. You need to do a lot of like light layers so that it doesn't crack when it dries.
For sure hitting me in the face. I don't know what. It's okay. It's fine. Just keep going.
It's not hitting you.
But this new season has some new cast members too, with the first being Indra Rojas, who wants to make costumes for a living. And production has her go see Yaya so that they can introduce Yaya again. But oh god, when she says she wants to make costumes for a living, she means that literally, because Yaya encourages her to go compete so that when she does commissions that she can say she's a award-winning cosplayer. Making a living off cosplay commissions is not a good, fun, or profitable job for most people. Anyway, she's doing a She-Ra cosplay, old She-Ra because this is 2014, and this part has Yaya explaining Warbler again. Jesse is back and he's gonna do a Mega Man cosplay, but they do this ridiculous setup where they have him go to the arcade so he can get inspiration for his cosplay by having his friends say,
"So, Jesse, if you were looking for a sign for your next cosplay, this is it."
Okay.
Got it.
They are going to do this stupid fake inspiration setup for like every episode. We get to see him use EVA foam for the first time, and he's sadly using hot glue, which is just unfortunate because there weren't a lot of internet videos about this stuff. Actually, no, there were. But everyone was just using hot glue, which can work on EVA foam, but contact cement is much better, especially for curved objects like this because you need it to bond on contact anyway. That's all we get of Jesse, because it's time for Kamikaze. But wait,
no one ever helps Jesse. Like, like his partner helps Jesse, but like none of these people that are like acting like they're like the big, bad, awesome cosplayers are ever helping Jesse. Jesse's just out there doing stuff as he knows how to do it or hoping for the best.
For once, the big drama of this episode is Jesse! Because when he opens up his Mega Man, it is covered in scratches, so he weathers it in the hotel room. So he tries to make the scratches look purposeful by covering them with metallic paint, which I've literally done before, but I usually bring black acrylic, and unfortunately for him, he runs out of his metallic paint and can't find any more, and runs around looking for more all around town until he finds metallic Sharpies. But this is literally the most screen time this man ever gets. The social media burlesque group happens and DeviantArt is uncomfortable, but they have a funny sign. But they make them explain the joke, so it's kind of ruined. It looks like we got Reddit, Twitter, DeviantArt. Jessica is
WebMD. That's not really social media, but it's funny.
MD. But it's time for the competition, and the green screen things are back. The judges this time are a makeup artist, Lauren Bergman of Castle Corsetry, Ivy Doomkitty, who is a cosplayer, and Anise Dem Fatal.
Anise Dem Fatal is the final judge, and she's a huge name in the industry.
She's been doing her own custom stuff for 20 plus years, easy.
Did she start when she was 5? I tried to Google this person. I literally can't find anything about them. Who is this? And did they start cosplaying when they were 5?
Or is that even who he was talking about? Because that might have been about Lauren. Like, yeah, I never heard of the last person, but
5. Nothing wild happens during the contest, so they decide to give each person this big tense lead up before they go out to try and make it more dramatic, but literally nothing goes wrong, and they could not think of any other way to make this interesting. The judges deliberate, and Indra gets compliments on making the character not look like the cartoon. You hear that, production. Accuracy isn't king. And for the awards, best group is not in the cast, third place is also not in the cast, second place not in the cast, and best in show goes to not in the cast. Wow, another goose egg for the heroes cast. I guess they learned absolutely nothing after season 1. And not to mention that there have never been any explanations of why cosplays did or didn't win, and no mention of the fact that if you don't win in a cosplay, you can re-enter it. This is what I'm talking about.
You can re-enter it. Like Jesse has won 1 out of the 4 cosplays he's entered. He could enter the 3 non-winning costumes into another costume. But I mean, it is a reality TV show. They want them to struggle and make costumes every week. But still, like, you can still enter those non-winning costumes into another costume contest. Especially if you're like, oh, maybe I learned something. Maybe I can fix it up. Maybe I will look up a tutorial to how to make it better. And I will maybe, fix it or do something else to it, try to make it look a little nicer, or try to make it look a little more accurate or something. But if they have not won an award, you can enter in to other costume contests with them. Like, I will give, like, them being like, oh man, my, like, Mega Man is damaged, like the paint scratch, so I'm gonna go and try to make it look like it just got damaged on purpose. And I'm like, yeah, that is, like, battle worn, that is legitimate. Just using silver, little rough. There's other ways that you can do that. I'm not good at painting, so, like, I probably would struggle, but, like, you know, now that you know, because that was your fix, you can, you know, deepen those quote-unquote scratches and stuff. I'm just saying, I don't know. Tiffany, thank you for the follow. Welcome.
I've been a competition cosplayer for a long time, and even when I competed all the time, I still only competed like once or twice a year. Plus, back then I would literally only make like one cosplay a year, and I would compete in it more than once because I wouldn't win. So I would just re-enter it in a different contest. Now, if you win something in that cosplay, it is considered bad form to re-enter that cosplay. But if you do not place at all, most of the time, the judges will encourage you to re-enter it in a different contest. It is so common that it is absolutely bonkers that this show never let anyone in the cast do that. Some of these builds could have and should have been re-entered, and I don't think the show would have suffered at all, especially with how little airtime the actual construction process got. We could have had scenes of the cast fixing up that cosplay, talking about why the cosplay didn't win in the first place and how they were going to improve it. And then you could have multi-episode storylines following that cosplay and getting to see a realistic, accurate portrayal of what a competition cosplayer goes through with their work.
But no, they wanted drama because drama sells. Like, I get it. I'm watching this for the tea. Like, but it is very much drama driven. They care more about the drama than they do the craftsmanship of it. Like, that's it.
But no, money and boobs. Episode 8 opens with a mention that the Ottawa Pop Expo uses the International Cosplayers Guild rules. The ICG is a non-profit dedicated to the promotion and education of costuming, including cosplay as an art form in all of its aspects. And it has a standardized list of rules for costume contests. These rules are where I believe that the novice, journeyman, and masters categories originated, and the rule set is a common starting point for most contests today. Holly and Jessica will be working on a Skeksis cosplay from the movie Dark Crystal.
I hated this Skeksis. Dark Crystal is like the one of those groups of movies that I cannot watch because, like, it's a little too uncanny valley for me. It's a little too uncomfortable. Like, I can watch. I really like Mirror Mask. I'm fine watching The Labyrinth. I like The Labyrinth. I do not like a Dark Crystal. It is okay if you're mad at me about that. That's totally fine. But, like, it just, they look weird. I don't like it.
Still, but Jessica will be doing the cosplay alone because Holly has somewhere to be. We get, like, 2 seconds of a shot of Holly doing some incredible sketches for it, and they get to go meet Brian Henson and actually see the real Skeksis puppet from the movie, and it's really cool and sweet. Riki is back this season, and she's doing Ash from League, and she's carving a bow out of XPS foam so that she can mold it and make it out of resin, but her silicone isn't curing because it's too cold, so she ends up deciding to switch to doing a Persona character last minute, so Ash goes back in the deck. That's a Legends of Runeterra joke, because I don't play League. Jesse is doing the Mandarin from Iron Man 3, and he's casting rings in real metal. Indra is doing League 2. She's doing an Ari cosplay that she's done a ton of very impressive hand embroidery for. And not a ton happens besides that, so it's time for the con. Indra cuts her Ari wig in the hotel room on her partner's head. She apparently hasn't done a full test run of this cosplay, though, and her tails that are supposed to stand up are not working, so she has to drag them on the floor. Jessica gets her costume shipped in boxes, and one of the boxes is missing. Oh no, it's like stuck in Canadian customs. Jesse is getting help from Jessica to put his hair in a top knot, and it's just adorable. But her package finally arrives, so she heads out in the costume with very low visibility with no one to help her. Just kidding, she's with a camera crew. The judges this time are also all cosplayers. Riki goes up and has a cool magnet trick with her cards, but it fails on the stage for a second But she gets it to work, though they absolutely edit it to make it look like it's way longer than it actually is. Indra goes up in her Ari, and they end up cutting to Jessica Negri in the audience with Monica from last season. Like, literally every time they show the audience, they cut to them. Jesse has his moment, Jessica has hers, and no one's asking stupid questions. In the judges' deliberations, Indra gets a nod for her embroidery and her corset, and overall, they're pretty happy with everyone in the cast this episode. Yaya's Judges Award goes to Not in the Cast. The Judge Melting Mirrors also goes to Not in the Cast, but it's a Garuka, and nobody in production.
This also might be fan art, but Google reverse image search didn't find it. What is fan art? This, I guess?
Caught that they put up a picture of Magical Girl Monica instead. The next Judges Award is Not in the Cast, but the last one goes to Riki. And then for the major awards, the money prizes, Best Embroidery goes to Indra. And then they skip over all the other awards and go straight to Best in Show, who is, of course, not in the cast. But at least this episode served to prove that Simple and Clean can still win thanks to Riki. And someone else is about to immediately derail that with the single worst cosplay of the entire show. Episode 9 is about...
Please don't be Jessie. I'm rooting for Jessie. Please don't be Jessie. Y'all, I swear to God. Y'all, please, no.
Animate Miami. Holly, Jessica, and Chloe are doing Dragon Age Inquisition cosplays, and they actually did them prior to the game coming out because they got to...
Ari was a lead character. Yeah, so the wolf girl with the multi-tails was...
work with the developer. So there's this whole segment, where they go to the offices and they get to see the character that they have chosen for Chloe to cosplay. They do a duct tape pattern for the cosplay and even explain the entire process of how to do it. Then Jessica goes to a friend to do alterations to her Morrigan cosplay. But she's competing in this cosplay. I was under the impression that Jessica made this cosplay. But in one of the interview segments, Jessica says
she did these elaborate cartridge plates.
So did you not make this cosplay?
And why are you
competing in it? Would you normally compete in it, or are you doing it for the ad? She's just doing it for the show. In between the seasons, it seems like production realized it was kind of weird to only have one male cast member. So this season they added 2 more, Carl and Miguel. And they keep doing this stuff where production has them go to some place to get inspiration for their costume because filming someone at home watching anime wouldn't be exciting, I guess. You can't just tell us that they love the character. You have to stage them getting the idea. And
you can't just have them you can't just be like, hey, we're setting up this camera. Tell us who you're cosplaying and why, and then just let them ramble on for 20 minutes. And then be like, okay, we get it. And then splice in 3 seconds of the best part of that footage. Because, if you came up to me and is like, who are you cosplaying and why? And I'd be like, I'm cosplaying Mau Mau from Apothecary Diaries. I love Mau Mau from Apothecary Diaries. She's so cute. She's so funny. She's really smart. I want to be her. She's resistant as far as Jinchi goes. It's so funny. Apothecary Diaries was the best show that season. I don't care. I understand that it would have been if Free Ren wasn't there, and you can tell me whatever you want about Free Ren. I am not there for your melancholy show, so it's fine. But whatever. For me, Apothecary Diaries, I could just go on. You can't just do that. You got to put them in weird art places. It's fine, but what?
Anyway, Carl is introduced as a young and hungry cosplayer. He's competed a lot, and he's going to be making the mannequin from Silent Hill in a week. His sidekick for this series is his sister, who apparently won Best in Show at A-Kon at some point, and she brings up a lot of good points about how making something like this in a week is a bad idea. But he's making everything out of PVC pipe, furry foam, and apparently Sintra, though that doesn't get mentioned until the end of the episode when Yaya talks about the cosplay. The second new cast member is Miguel. He's 25, he's from New York, and he says he wants to be
Why do they all have friends that are helping them and or family members and or significant others? And I guess that's fine, but I also find it a little weird.
In cosplay because he wants to be the center of attention. He's never competed before, but he'll be making Black War Greymon from Digimon, a big old armor build. He's never made anything this ambitious before, but the classic cosplay material flooring mats has finally made its TV debut. But he's cutting it with scissors, and like, ow, don't do that. Just use a box cutter or an X-Acto knife, jeez. But he does explain how he's using a heat gun to shape it and how he's covering it in resin and fiberglass to strengthen it. And there's some drama about the weather, but there is a mention of how resin should only be worked with outdoors. So finally, some education.
Gloves
not
is
enough for the viewer to actually learn how to do things, but enough that you could Google it. But even though he seems to know the dangers of resin, he still spray paints inside at an open window. Don't do that. In the Yaya catch-up segment, we get a Sakizo mention.
You remember my Zakizo costume?
But they do not give you an hour-long video explaining who Sakizo is or why she's important, like I did. But who cares? It's time for the con. The new boys have not finished their cosplays, and there's a totally not staged segment where everybody meets up and the boys...
To drink! We're drinking again because we've decided. We've decided. Drinking is a thing. Also, Daria? Hello.
Boys are actually included, unlike last season. I wonder why. Holly makes a comment about Carl not wearing a shirt, and Jessica replies to that with,
I think it's an anime thing.
It is. There's an Apple Teeny shout out. Carl orders chocolate milk. Jessica is cosplaying Daria and talks about the lovely supportive atmosphere.
Okay. What's-her-face is also cosplaying from Daria. She's Daria's friend. There's 2 Daria cosplayers here.
Even just standing in line with people while competing. And it's literally the first time of the entire show that someone actually brings up what most people love about competing. The community around it. Something the show has tried really hard to portray in a really different way. But way less drama at this big cast meetup. I actually really like this scene, but it's time to get ready for the contest. Chocolate Milk Boy needs help becoming the mannequin, and it's a whole fiasco.
Chocolate Milk Boy. Oh my god. Congratulations, dude. Your new name is Chocolate Milk Boy.
Because that's what happens when you only spend a week on a costume this big. But in his interview, he does say that he will need his sister's help. So there's finally a mention of a handler, which is also a common thing in cosplay competitions. It's very common to have a friend alongside you to be your buddy to make sure you can like eat and drink. Because a lot of times competition cosplays are really big and you just kind of just need somebody to hold your hand. But honestly, damn, that cosplay looks miserable. And it wasn't until Miguel's green screen segment that I saw that he straight up did what is considered not a full no-no, but a in foam smithing, and that is that he used the actual texture of the flooring foam. Like, it doesn't look bad, but it's less work than getting rid of it. Yaya is...
Yeah, but it also adds texture. I mean, sometimes you go and you buy fabric that has texture because you like the texture of it, and you leave the texture because you think it adds something visually to the cosplay. So, I mean, it just really depends. If you want that texture because you like the look of it and you think it adds something to your cosplay, I think that's fine to keep it because, again, we do the same thing with fabrics. One of the big things when you're picking out fabrics is, like, the texture of it, the drape of it, like how thick it is, how it's going to lay. So I feel like if you wanted that kind of texture on your foam, I think it's fine.
Prejudging in a Sakizo. Again, I know she doesn't normally do that and that it's just for the show, but damn, that looks miserable. And the other judges are actually other cosplayers. The Dragon Age group goes in and they look great, but Jessica does say that her dress was made by somebody else. And like, I don't know why you would even go to prejudging and not just be like part of the stage presentation, but okay, TV show. There's even a cut-in of her confessional where she says,
my friend Jenny made the blouse and both of the skirts, and I'm really worried that's going to affect our chances for placing.
Girl, what?
Yeah, you don't get... Okay, so you would not be considered in the prejudging section, or you would also not be considered as like a winning part of that. So even if it's like a group cosplay, if you were like, hi, I got this made by someone who is not here, it's like, okay, We are not going to judge you then. It will be judged completely on your friends. And they're the ones that are going to win. Like, if they win, if they place, they're the ones that win and place. You don't get to. Like, you can walk on stage with them. But, like, no, actually, I don't even know. Like, you're not really allowed to walk on stage. Just, like, no, if you're not qualified to be in this costume contest, you don't really get to walk on stage. But again, it's a production thing, so Jesus Christ. Razor, thank you for the follow. Welcome. It just... the choices in this. Like, the choices that the people that are participating in this are making is wild to me.
Miguel goes to prejudging and says something about how he didn't prime the foam on his feet, and Yaya calls him out for that to his face and says,
the feet are actually expanding foam, and then I resin them, and I left it a little bit chalky because he has reptilian feet, so they're not smooth.
Are you sure you didn't just run out of time to paint them?
And then they build up all this drama about how long it takes.
Okay. Don't really need to be catty. Like, you can just be like, okay, let me give you some tips for you to take away from. That's definitely happened at my shows and at shows I've participated in. You'd be like, let me give you some tips on how to do this better in the future, or what you should have done. Not just like, okay, are you just lying to me and like, you ran out of time or whatever? Like, even if it was like, okay, he ran out of time, it's a little
Carl to get to prejudging, and it seems like they're gonna fake him being super late, but he does finally make it, and he's kind of falling apart. He can barely walk in the thing, and Yaya says it best.
I have no idea what I'm even looking at.
Though he talks a whole lot about what the character is instead of how he made it, which you just shouldn't do in prejudging because it's a waste of time. They want to know how you made it. They don't care about the character. Backstage, the rest of the cast finally gets to see poor Carl, who is now having to use an office chair to move around.
This looks like bacon.
Miguel goes up and there's nothing to note, but then the Dragon Age group goes up, and at the end of their walk-on, Chloe goes off stage as one of the judges starts to ask them a question. So it's kind of an oops. But then Chloe runs back on the stage and kisses Jessica, and then the judges don't say anything, and it's just kind of weird. Anyway, Carl goes up, and the question is, will he fall apart on stage? And he doesn't, but he drops one of his heads, but he makes a funny joke.
Guys, I don't need a hand. I got lots of them.
And it's time for the awards. None of the judges' awards go to the cast. Best group goes to the Dragon Age group. And this is where the editing is just getting intolerable, because so they cut down what the judge says to,
now we're gonna go on to the individual awards, and it's gonna go to Jack from Jack and Daxter.
But what's the name of the award? I know what it is, because the award right after is Best Journeyman. So that person just won Best Novice. But they have never explained the categories, and it doesn't seem like anyone in production even understood how these contests work.
Production doesn't care about it. Production cares about the drama. The only reason that we're getting parts of it that is not like drama filled is because the people involved in the show aren't making a lot of drama. They're not really interacting with each other that much. The reaction that they're doing is like less drama. Like whatever. Like they're not being catty, not really. So it's just like, okay, I guess we'll just talk about what's actually happening, and like, you know, this dude's having trouble, I guess, like whatever. They don't care about they don't care about cosplay contests. They don't care about how it works and all this other stuff. They don't care to show that. It's not what they're trying to do.
So this doesn't surprise me. Best Journeyman is also not in the cast, but there's clearly several other winners that they don't even show because there's a ton of people on stage. But Best in Show goes to a giant Warhammer 40K who is not in the cast. Miguel is feeling okay. He's feeling good about what he made, but Carl is very sad about it and just wants some chocolate milk. But who wouldn't be sad when they destroyed their back for an entire day, only to look like bacon? So why would Carl decide to make such a complicated cosplay in under a week, and why hadn't he started it yet? Was he forced to do that by production? So my suspicion from the very beginning was that they required each cosplayer to make a new cosplay for each episode, and my suspicion was confirmed in Yaya's book. Most cosplayers take on only 1 or 2 contests a year. However, due to the time restrictions imposed on the filming, the production team required the cast to make new cosplays for each convention, with only 2 weeks of lead time.
Jesus.
They also had us enter multiple conventions back to back. So on top of having to make a stupid number of cosplays in a stupid time frame, the time frame was also further controlled by production to account for when filming would take place. I and the other cast members had to wait to execute certain crucial tasks on our cosplays until scheduled filming days. Yaya also recently did an interview with the Cosplay Crunch podcast where she said this.
I don't think they knew what they were getting into and how long it would take to make costumes. I was smart in that I sort of prepared almost like stages. I prepared like kind of like a cooking show where I would like have made big parts of the costume already, but I would prepare extra pieces so that they could record me making those pieces.
And this is probably the show's big...
So basically, girl made multiple skirts or some shit, but she only really used one of them, if that makes sense. So she would be like, I basically made my cosplay and then cut out extra pieces so I could pretend I was making something, or so they could see me sewing shit that I wasn't gonna use, basically, is what she just said.
Biggest sin. Because let's be real, this could have been avoided. Why the hell are you leaving it to your cast members to figure out how they're even going to present stuff to you?
Thanks for
They
the
could have
follow,
just had people use cosplays that they already had like 90% done and then just had them talk about how they did that. But instead, they depicted competition cosplayers as people who rush through projects in 2 weeks. They normalized sacrificing your sanity and health to rush through your project right before the event. And this has had the biggest repercussions because people still do this, and they never.
Listen, I procrastinate, so like this is me all the time. if I'm not in crunch time, I'm not working on it. It's bad habits. Don't be like me.
Acknowledged that the only reason they were rushing through these things was not because of their own procrastination or their own schedules, but because of production schedules. They started when it fit production's needs, not theirs. And was the cast happy with the final product? Here's what Yaya said in her book. Everyone in the cast vowed to do everything we could to shift the focus of the show away from manufactured drama in order to reflect the real, diverse, and beautiful world of cosplay. However, once we signed our contracts with all the fine print and conditions, we found that we had very little influence on the outcome of the show. Compared to all the outlandish concepts and pitches that I received before the show began production, I think the other cast members and I did our best under the given circumstances.
Dang.
They were given no time to do this stuff. And while some of them managed to pull out really impressive builds, Carl still ended up in that mannequin. And I have no qualms calling that a bad cosplay, because to me, it's not about how it looks, it's not about its craftsmanship even. But a bad cosplay to me is one that makes a person suffer when they're wearing it, and one that falls apart. And you can't tell me that Chocolate Milk Boy was having fun rolling around on that office chair while looking like bacon. Episode 10 has 2 new...
Okay. We're going to stop there for the day. Well, not for the day. We're going to stop there for right now. I'm going to make a part 3 because this is like 2 hours and 14 minutes. So we're an hour and 30. Jesus, I am going to make another part.